Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Person Who. I'm so excited that you're here with me today, wherever you are. If you're in your car, if you're running, if you're on your way to school, if you're on your lunch break, wherever you're at, I'm so thankful that you're here today. I'm excited that we get to sit down and chat together. Something that I want to talk about today is something that I felt on my heart a few weeks ago. And then, let's be honest, life just got really, really busy and crazy. And I just haven't had the time yet to sit down and talk about it. But I wanted us to talk about it today. And I want to talk to the person who is discouraged. And that's kind of a sad womp womp, not fun word because nobody likes to be discouraged. I tell my friends and my husband all the time, I don't like to be sad. I don't like to be discouraged because it's lame. Being sad is lame. I like to be happy. I like to be joyful, full of energy and excited about what I'm doing. But if we're just being honest, sometimes life be lifing and discouragement comes in like a flood and it's like, oh my gosh, I can barely keep my head above water because all of these things are happening. And honestly, that's been kind of what I've been walking through personally over the last few weeks or months, just with the random things that are happening where I'm like, Lord, what is going on right now? What is happening? Lots of transitions and some personal things in my life, family that's been sick. I have an injury that I've been struggling with for a few months now, and some stuff in my mind that's just been like, one thing after another. It's like I am discouraged and then I'll have a good day and then I'll have a bad day and then I'll be excited and then I'll be discouraged again. And it's like, I feel like I'm trying to pull myself up by my bootstraps, but it's just not working. I don't really know what's going on. And honestly, it's because I'm trying to do it by myself, if I'm being completely honest. And that's not the way that God intended for us to do it at all. And sometimes when I'm talking to you guys, I'm also actively processing some things in my own head and in my own heart. So if my eyeballs get a little bit watery like they just did, it's because I'm just like connecting a few dots of like, yeah, because I've been trying to do it all by myself. And that's not what it's meant to be like. We're not supposed to do this life on our own. Jesus is so kind. He wants to do it with us. But I was going to give you a little bit of backstory about just a few things that have been going on that have just kind of been, heavy, discouraging, that I've been personally trying to navigate. One that's at the forefront of my mind right now. If you know me, I love to run. I am from a family of runners. My mom runs, my grandma ran, my sister runs, my grandpa ran. It's a whole thing. It was like what I did growing up. And over the years, like while I was in high school and stuff, I didn't know how much I appreciated it because I also ran like track and cross country. So anytime I ran, I was like competing and I was like, oh my gosh, this is awful. I can't breathe. I hate this. But as I graduated from high school, went into college and just some adult years of my life, I realized I really enjoyed running. It was a place where my mind kind of just was free. I wasn't stressed out or worried about anything. It was like an hour to myself. And I liked to go on long runs. So like 4, 5, 6, 7 miles because it was just like time where it was just me and I felt like my brain could be quiet and I wasn't stressed out. I wasn't overwhelmed. I got to enjoy outside and it was just something that was fun. And I really noticed how much I relied on it during my wedding season or our engagement season, mine and Easton's engagement season. I just ran a lot because obviously there was a lot of details to get done, lots of things to plan and coordinate. Budget for a wedding is like, what? That's crazy. And so I heavily relied on running and I ran a lot every week leading up to the wedding. And it was great. It was good. No problems, no issues. Praise God, right? But then it was like after we got back from our honeymoon, after we kind of settled into life and I started getting back into my routine of going on long runs on the weekend and during the weekdays, I started to get this like kind of dull ache in my hip. And I was like, what? That's weird. And also I've been so blessed that I've never like experienced an injury, like a sports injury or like a running injury or breaking my leg or anything like that. I've just been super blessed. And so I was like, well, this is kind of weird. I don't really know what I've done. But obviously me being stubborn, I didn't stop and I just kept going, kept running, and just kind of ignored this thing that was nagging at me for quite some time until it got to the point last December where I couldn't ignore it anymore. And I was like, well, or it was November. I can't remember. I was like, well, I can't do this. And so after talking to my mom and going to my doctor, Presley, shout out. She's a physical therapy assistant. So she was my doctor. She told me I needed to lay off of it for a little bit, and mom did too. They were like, yeah, you should probably chill. And I found out it was my IT band, and she was just kind of angry at me. And I was like, okay, that's fine, whatever. Well, I started to get super disappointed and discouraged. And you're like, Brady, it's a hip injury. No, well, I was assigning value, intense and immense value, to something that wasn't the Lord in my life. And I was relying on running as an escape from the reality of some of the things I was facing. And very quickly, I didn't realize it in the moment, but having to take a step back from running for 4 months now, I realized I was assigning a lot of value to something that wasn't the Lord and relying on that to be my source of peace and my source of clear mind and my source of I was just able to separate from everything that was going on, all these thoughts in my head. It was important to me, and I didn't realize that I had started putting things above the Lord. And I was like, why am I so discouraged and beat up and down right now over an injury that it hurts when I run, but when I do anything else, it doesn't really bother me. And it's in those moments where God has been super kind, in those moments of discouragement, when I actually stopped being mad, because I was mad for a second. Let's be real. I was really upset. I was really frustrated. I was like, God, this is something that actually brings me peace and clarity. And I get to just take a break. Why are you taking this away from me? And it was just, running's just special to me. It reminds me of my mom and my grandma and stuff. And I was like, I don't understand. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. I'm doing something good for myself. I'm moving my body. Why are you taking this away from me? And God's super kind, because even when I met him with this pent up anger and aggression and disappointment, he was like, hey girl, I'm just going to show you right now that you're putting a few things above me and your priorities are just kind of out of whack. And he used something that is super near and dear and close to my heart to get my attention. Now, for a minute, I was super discouraged. And I was like, God, I don't understand. I don't like this. This is not fun. But he was like, that's okay. I'm just trying to get your attention. I'm just trying to get you to look back at me. Because for a minute now, I've been trying to do things in my own strength, in my own might. And what has that led me to? Other than just being a bit discouraged and not being able to walk in the fullness of the peace and of the joy that the Lord has for me? And my eyes get focused on the wrong things. And it's like, hey, Brady, look at me over here. Let me get your attention. I need to talk to you. And friend, it's okay to be discouraged. Honestly, if I'm being completely honest, my hip and my knee are not fully, well, now it's my knee. I accidentally ran far this weekend and that was not good. Anyways, so that's besides the point. My hip and my knee are not fully better. Now I know that healing is mine, and I know that the Lord is teaching me something through it, but it's so easy to get caught up in my discouragement of that. And now I know this may be a very surface level example for you. And I don't know what it is that may be weighing on you so heavily, that may be discouraging you. If you didn't get a promotion at work, if you can't technically find money, you can't meet ends meet right now, if you're having a hard time in school and you just can't seem to get the grade that you need to get the scholarship, if you were pursuing someone and they are just letting you down constantly, if they're not giving you all of the love and grace and attention that you're giving them, if your friends are giving you a hard time right now, if you're just having personal struggle in your life, it's okay to be discouraged. It's okay that I'm discouraged, but I don't need to constantly keep my eyes on that discouragement. I think that's where I'm trying to get at. I don't need to constantly keep my eyes on my discouragement, because if I keep my eyes on what's discouraging me, then I'm going to have it all wrong. I'm not going to see, oh, the Lord is actually teaching me something through this. The Lord is actually showing me something. He's revealing something to me. He's healing places of my heart. He's pulling things out of me that don't need to be there anymore. And sometimes it's hard to, just focus on the bad things, just focus on the discouragement. But man, when you do that, it's just everything you do is heavy. Everything you do, you maybe are just trying to be happy, but it's fake and it's just got a little bit of disappointment with it. When you don't have your eyes on the right things, it's super hard to see the good that the Lord is doing. And for so long, and even still now, like I'm figuring this out in real time, that like the Lord really does want to teach me something through this hip injury. Yeah, instead of going and reading the Bible and praying and spending time with Him, I'm going on 6-7 mile runs, listening to God knows what on my phone and just distracting myself instead of coming to reality with what I'm actually upset about or frustrated with or don't understand. Instead of facing this discouragement head on, I'm like, I'm going to run from it, like actively. I'm actively running away from it. And He's like, hey, come back to me. Let's do this together. Let's talk through this together. And it's okay. Sometimes we don't like to face our discouragement because it can seem overwhelming. It's a lot. Like, okay, Brady, your knee hurts. I'm super sorry about that. But like, I don't have enough money to buy groceries, or like my family's going through this divorce, or my boyfriend cheated on me, or I didn't get into my dream school. Like, I don't know what it is for you. And I'm sorry that you're having to go through that. But I promise you, if you fix your eyes on the right thing, it may not be happy right now. It may not be joyful right now, but joy comes in the morning. Like there's a new chance. There's another day. There's new mercies. So give yourself grace. It's your first time going through this. It's my first time going through this. Like I was talking to one of my friends, Elena, this week, and she brought up something, and she talked about how sometimes she just has to build her friends an empathy list. That way that she can empathize and understand with what they're going for, with what they're going through, and be a better friend to them. And sometimes it sounds silly, but like build yourself an empathy list of all the things that you're carrying. That doesn't mean like always make an excuse for yourself, but like build yourself a list of some of the things that you're carrying and walking through for the first time, and say, hey, you know what? I'm a little discouraged, but it's okay because God's got me. Things didn't exactly work out the way that I thought they were going to work out, but that's okay. God's got me. And so I'm sitting here telling myself right now, hey, it's okay, Brady. God's got you. Now, there's some other things like that I'm figuring out and going through right now, and that's okay because I know that the Lord's got me, and I know He's going to teach me something through all of these things. But if I constantly put my eyes and my focus on like, they didn't even talk to me today. I can't believe she said that. Are you kidding me? I can't believe this happened to me. And I just constantly am focused on the wrong things, that I'm not going to be able to see the beauty that comes out of just living life and growing and the Lord teaching me things through it. And there's this verse in 2 Corinthians in chapter 4, and I'm reading out of the Message version, and the Message version is sometimes really intense. So you can also look it up in NIV or whatever your vibe is. But 2 Corinthians 4, and it says, if you only look at us, you might well miss the brightness. We carry this precious message around in the unadorned clay pots of our ordinary lives. That's to prevent anyone from confusing God's incomparable power with us. As it is, there's not much chance of that. You know for yourselves that we're not much to look at. It's a really humbling verse. It's getting better. Okay, I promise. We've been surrounded and battered by troubles, but we're not demoralized, which is just another word for discouraged. We're not sure what to do, but we know that God knows what to do. We've been spiritually terrorized, but God hasn't left our side. We've been thrown down, but we haven't been broken. And it's such an encouraging verse because it addresses the discouragement, but then it replaces the discouragement with truth. So if you've been beaten down, you're not broken. If people have been mean to you and said lies about you, you know what the truth is. If you don't know what you're going to do or how you're going to provide for your family over the next month, the Lord is your portion and He's going to meet you where you're at. Like I love this verse because it's replacing what's hurting and right in front of you with what's true and what God is promised us. So we may be beaten down right now, but it's not forever. I may be discouraged right now, but it's not the end of my story. This is just a part of it. And God's going to use it for something so beautiful and so real and so raw that way, when you're on the other side of it, you can look back and then you can appreciate it. Now, going through discouragement, you're not going to appreciate it in the moment. But when you're on the other side of it, can you only imagine how it's going to feel when you can look back and say, you know what, God, you actually had your hand on me the whole entire time. There's a verse in the Bible that my friend Tiffany, she always takes me back to, Proverbs 16, verse 9. It says, in their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. And a lot of time we are the source of our own discouragement because we're trying to make our own plans and we're trying to put our feet in front of the other when the Lord's like, girl, I wasn't even trying to bring you down that road. I wasn't even trying to put you in that situation. But it's us, ourselves, thinking that we can do it on our own, in our own strength and in our own might, and will up a plan to solve every single problem. Like a few episodes back when I talked about, I like to fix everything. Hello, nothing new. But it's because, exactly what the proverb says, we like to plan our own course. But that's not our job. It's not our job to plan out our whole entire life. My type A people out there, you're not always going to have a plan, and your plan is going to fail. 9 times out of 10, maybe 10 times out of 10, it's going to fail. And instead of getting at the end of your rope and just being so crushed and so discouraged, it's like, God, I should have just let you place my feet in one foot in front of the other the whole entire time. And a lot of times that's how you can avoid some discouragement is just by getting out of your own way and just saying, hey, you know what, God, my life is yours. It's all for you anyways. There's someone at the door. There's someone at the door right now. Guys, we have special guests. Say hello.
Hi.
This is Whitney. We all know Whitney.
We brought cookies.
What's up? And I'm Aaron. I'm here for the podcast.
We're not talking about anything heavy at all right now.
You probably Sometimes you need the comic.
We're talking about discouragement. Any words to say?
Well, we came to bring cookies to not discourage you, to encourage you. Sometimes you just have to stop when you're discouraged and encourage yourself with cookies.
Exactly.
Like David did before the Lord.
Sorry, guys, I'm back. It did take me a second to regain where I was. But sometimes you just need, a happy interruption in your life. And a lot of times that cures your discouragement. But back to what we were talking about is a lot of time we ourselves are our own source of discouragement because we don't just let God do what God does best. Because things are not going to go according to plan all the time. Most times they're not. And when we finally say, okay, you know what, God, I actually can't do this and I need your help, that's when he can come in and be like, perfect. This is exactly where I need you. This is exactly where I want you. But if you are discouraged today, like seriously, I know we've had some good laughs and stuff, but if you really are discouraged today, I'm super sorry. And I want you to know that you don't have to go through it alone and that your discouragement is not the end of your story, period. There's not a period after discouragement because God is too good and he's too faithful and he keeps writing your story. And so this is just for a second. So the heaviness, it doesn't even have to be heavy. There's a verse in the Bible that says we can cast all of our anxieties on him. So I'm going to replace anxieties with discouragement. Cast all of your discouragement on him and tell him what's going on and he makes it light for us because friend, you're not alone. I'm rooting for you, even though I may never see you face to face. I may never get to talk to you. I may never get to text you. And this may be my only form of communication with you or encouragement to you. But I'm rooting for you. I'm cheering for you. But even more, Easton says he is too. But even more so, the Lord is. He's on your side. Even though it doesn't look like it right now, you're not going to be discouraged forever, I promise. He's a good God and he's faithful. And so my prayer for you today is that you know that you don't have to sit in your discouragement. I'm talking to myself right now with my little hip and knee injury, but I don't have to sit in that discouragement because I know that the Lord is my healer and he is my portion and my inheritance is to be healed and whole. And so I'm walking in that and you should too. If it's discouragement in your mind, in your heart, in your physical situation around you, the Lord is your provider. He promises us a peaceful mind, a sound mind. That's who he is. And so it's not over. Discouragement is not the end of your story. And I'm going to pray for you today before we go. Jesus, thank you so much for my friend that's across this camera, Lord. I pray whatever they're going through, how heavy it seems, God, that they would just cast it onto you. Lord, that they would give you all their worries, all their fears, all their discouragement, all the things that aren't going their way, God, and just place it at your feet and say, here it all is. I've been trying to do it on my own, but God, I need you to do it with me today. So Lord, I pray peace over their mind, peace in their hearts. God, and I pray that tomorrow or whenever they're listening to this, God, that you would just send joy into their life, overflowing amounts of joy, God. God, that you would just sustain them. In your word, it says that you sustain us, that we can wake another day because you're our sustainer. And so, God, thank you for that. Be with my friend. Encourage them. We love you, Jesus. Amen. Thank you guys so much for coming and listening today. I know it was kind of all over the place, but I want you to know you're not in this alone. And to the person who's discouraged, there is more to your story. This is not the end. And I promise there's joy on the other side of it. Love you so much.